Let us study the. Good afternoon, friends. Myself Sachin Take. I am working as the assistant professor into the S&D College of Engineering and Research Center. We have to study the network security concept in detail. Authentication procedure. How the authentication procedure should be done, that we have to study in this lecture. So, what is authentication? It should be used the different client server method, one-way authentication and two-way authentication. So, how authentications should be happen? That should be given in this self-explanatory diagram. That user ID and password enter into the client side, then it should be login with onto the server. Server check the authentications from the client by the server ID and password. User ID and password, user can enter the data onto the server. The server can authenticate it, reply back again to the client. Now, after entering the valid user ID and password, it should be access the given system for the different users, like from the laptops or the personal computer. Authentication should be done by the entering user ID and validate this user ID and password onto the server side. The server can send reply onto the client side. These are the very important concept we have to give. If user ID and password is entered, it can goes launch to the server, and if the user ID and password is not correct, the authentication get failed. If the user ID and password is authenticated, server should be sent the server ID and password, reply back to the client that authentication is correct. So, two-way authentication methods will be explained here. Now, consider the authentication procedure. You should use the client ID and password onto the security server. Server should authenticate it and goes reply with the client. So let us consider this client ID and password. So the security server ID and password should be onto the server. He should be exchange keys in between the client and server. Exchange key. After the exchanging key, if it is authenticated, then the data should be replied back to the client again. Now, let us consider the access control. If this diagram we have to understand it, then we can consider the access control method. Refer to the security features that control who can access the resources in the operating system. Application can call access control function to set who can access a specific resources or control access of the resources provided by applications. Now, what is encryption? The cryptography encryption is the process of transferring the information referred as the plain text using algorithm called cipher to make unreadable to everybody expert. Those processing special knowledge usually referred as key. The reverse procedure to make. So, cryptography encryption is the process of transferring the information from plain text to ciphertext to make unreadable to the everyone. Those who are processing the special knowledge only refer the keys. So, after entering the private keys, that data should be have encrypted form, and encrypted form data should be only accessed by those users who can know the reference key to the database. So in the database also we have to study this, and into the networking also we have to study that how the encryption is there and how decryption is there. The reverse procedure that encryption will be followed will be decrypt, like to ciphertext to the plain text we have to use the decryption. Uses of encryption is the another issue. Encryption can use to protect the data rest such as the files, computers, and storage devices. For example, USB flash drive. Digital right management system, which prevent the unauthorized use of reproduction of copyright material and protect software against the reverse engineering. Encryption is also used to protect the data that should be transmitted. Encryption by itself can protect and confidentiality of the messages. What is the application of encryption? This encryption software, also known as OTF software, then files and folder encryptions. We have to different files like Word, Notepad, WordPad, or Excel file. We have to use for the encryptions. Database encryption is used for this. Now, database encryption, communication encryption, database encryption. Now, database have the certain database file like SQL is the structured query language, or the rows and columns should be encrypted in the different manner. Communication encryption. Now, through the communications also have the encryption softwares. Now, these are some applications of the encryption like the disk encryption software, also known as OTF, files and folder encryptions, database encryptions, and communication encryption software. Encryption applications like network traffic encryption tools. So to avoid the network traffic, we have to use the encryption softwares like the network traffic encryption tools like generic and IP-second based. So what is wireless security? That is another challenging issue. So wireless security introductions, very convenient to have the wireless connections. Night mail for the security range is 802.11 is often few hundreds meter, so that it can company have leaving the laptops in the parking of lot of things. So in the wireless security, we have to use wireless encryption in the 802.11 method. 802.11 methods, we have to use the wireless security. Many problem arises from the vendors trying to make product as friendly as possible. When you have to plug the devices, it start working right away, usually with the no security or default. Several ways of the wireless need handle like 802.11i, Bluetooth, and Web 2.0. Now consider 802.11 security. IEEE 802.11i specifies the security standard for the IEEE 802.11 LAN. Interportable implementation is called Wi-Fi protected areas. Wireless application protocol like WAP standard to provide the wireless phones and other wireless devices to access the telephony and information services, including the internet. Web security primarily provided the wireless transport layer security, provide the security between the two mobile devices and web gateway to the internet. So 802.11 security. 802.11 standards provide the data link security protocol. It's called WEB, Wireless Equivalent Privacy, designed to make the security of wireless LAN as the good of wireless that is as good as the wireless LAN. So 802.11 have provide the security that should be good as the wireless LAN. Solution will be repair the wireless equivalent privacy, the web with the VP wireless privacy area, Wi-Fi protected access. Right? It's the WEP wired equivalent policy with the WPA, that wired protocol access. So final proposal into 8011.I reboost security to the network, like RSN, like reboost security to the network. Wi-Fi Alliance certified vendor compliance with the full of 802.11 I specified under the WPA. So we can study this into this lecture. Next part we can study the next lecture, like wireless security Bluetooth.